I'm here with Ed Morrissey, who is a blogger for the blog Hot Air, and he's come all the way from Minnesota to join us at the presidential conference. What made you travel this far?
Well, I'm very interested in Israeli policy as it relates to the United States policy as it relates to Israel, and I saw this as an opportunity to get a little bit more depth in how Israelis approach Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the American-Israeli partnership, to hear from some different voices that I wouldn't normally hear from when I'm in the United States, and it has been all that and more.
Does the Israeli-Palestinian conflict resonate with people in the United States that are looking at your blog?
Yes, it's a very big issue, I think, for conservatives. The blog is aimed sort of at a conservative libertarian audience, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I think, is a big draw for conservative readers. They're very interested in that. They're very pro-Israeli, and they're very vocal on how the United States should approach an Israeli-Palestinian conflict resolution.
Speaking of impact on the conflict, we've seen the impact of social media like blogs and Facebook and Twitter on the Arab Spring. What influence do you think that blogs have on the Arab-Israeli peace initiatives?
That's a very good question. I don't know if they have I don't know if the blogs have a great deal of influence on it, except to make sure that American policymakers are still focusing on it, and that it's an open issue, that we are concerned about it. We want to see some sort of positive resolution, especially for Israel as an American ally. Mainly, I think, though, to make sure that American politicians don't stray too much from being Israel's partner. I think that whenever you have interaction between our policymakers and Israeli policymakers, it makes very big news. For instance, when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Congress, I think that I certainly was writing about it. I think everybody was writing about it in real time, as is sort of the case with the blogosphere, you know, doing the live blogging sort of thing. And I think people are very focused on it. It's one of the higher, and maybe the highest priority foreign policy area outside of the two wars that we've been fighting.
We're heading towards an election year. As your bloggers are starting to think about who their front-running candidate will be in the Republican Party, who do you believe at this point is currying the most favor with your viewers and readers?
That's a very good question. I think that the majority of our readers probably would favor Sarah Palin, who's not in the race and hasn't really, not yet, and hasn't indicated that she's going to be. The nice thing about this time around is that there really isn't a clear front runner in the race, which is sort of unusual for Republicans. In my country, Republicans have a tendency to nominate the guy who came in second the last time.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, in your opinion, to have sort of an open playing field?
I kind of like it at this stage because I think it forces everybody to make a good argument for their nomination, whereas you don't have somebody just coasting. And the other part of that is you don't have everybody, at least not yet, aiming their guns at one particular nominee. I really want to see all of these nominees put forth a positive plan as to why they want to be president, why they would be a better candidate than everybody else, and not just one other person that everybody can, like I said, aim the rhetorical guns at.
Many people in this region will be looking towards the Republican candidates eventually to see who is the best on Israel or the best on the Middle East policy. Who do you believe will represent Israeli interests best?
I believe that pretty much any mainstream Republican candidate would be a good friend to Israel. I think that you have a couple of strong allies in there already. I think Tim Pawlenty, who was my former governor, would be a strong ally for Israel. I think Michelle Bachmann, I've got to give equal time now, Michelle Bachmann, who's also from Minnesota and is also now a major player in the race, I think she'd be a very strong ally of Israel. I think Mitt Romney would be as well. I think Herman Cain would be. Rick Perry may be getting into the race. He's the current governor of Texas, a big state, lots of great economic growth going on in that state, and I think he'd be a strong ally for Israel. Israel is fortunate that I think that it's a bipartisan, mainly a bipartisan strength in our country, that there's a wide recognition that Israel is our friend and that we benefit when Israel thrives. And so I'm fairly optimistic about how America is going to hold up its end of the bargain as Israel's friend, because Israel just has so many friends in American politics.
Ed Morrissey, thank you so much for taking the time out of the blogosphere to share your insights with us, and thanks for joining us here.
Thank you.